Tua, now he's in Atlanta. 1-year deal, going to the Falcons. It's going to be Michael Penix's backup. Presumably, if Penix is ready for week 1, you've got your doubts about that. I'm a big Penix defender. This is a make or break season for him. And whereas last year, Kirk Cousins was his backup and then eventually became the starter, now you got 2 lefties in the building. Now you don't got to worry about who your blindside tackle protector is here. This makes things very streamlined for Atlanta. And again, this is a very low-risk, high-reward scenario. If Penix proves he can stay healthy and be a franchise quarterback, Atlanta's got every opportunity to win the NFC South. If he can't stay healthy or he underachieves, you basically got Tua on the league minimum with a chance to rejuvenate his career. And if nothing else about Tua, what has he always been good at? Getting rid of the ball quickly and being accurate. And in an offense that has Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London, that should probably be as close to the skill set that he had in Miami as possible. And so, look, Tua, you hope for Michael Penix's chances and his circumstances that Tua never gets the chance to prove that he can rejuvenate his career. But if he does get that chance, he'll have as good of a chance as anybody.
Yeah, I look at it as like being a low risk, medium reward kind of signing. You got him on the cheap, and obviously comes in and gives you the appropriate crutch to lean on. Now you got Penix, and I would argue that Tua is a flaccid Penix, pun intended. Not exactly a guy that I would entirely trust over a 17-game season, but essentially what he provides is an insurance policy if Penix cannot recover from that knee injury that he suffered late last year and is ready in time for week 1. You know, it's entirely conceivable that Tua Tagovailoa will be the starter maybe the first 3 weeks, 5 weeks of the regular season, and then they're going to turn the keys back over to Michael Penix. The problem with Penix is his gross inaccuracy. It was definitely on display last season. He was outside the top 30 adjusted completion percentage, despite the appreciable weapons that he did have on that roster. You mentioned Bijan Robinson, you mentioned Drake London, mentioned Kyle Pitts, who has always been a fantasy tease, and he actually delivered on his very dirt cheap price last year. So the leash, I would argue, is shortened for Michael Penix, but he's got to go out there, get himself healthy, and then come back in. You know, maybe now at the beginning of the season, you can bring him along slowly, make sure he's A-okay and at 100%, and then go out there and try to prove his worth, try to prove his mettle. So, again, I like the landing spot, and I like the continuity as well. As you mentioned, 2 southpaws on the roster, so schematically, you run the same stuff, whether it's Tua or Penix.
Would you say it's fair that, at least in some regards, this quarterback room now in Atlanta has some kind of comparison to the quarterback room last year in Indianapolis, where we thought it was going to be Anthony Richardson's job, and it's a guy that had battled to stay healthy, and you had questions about his ability to be a franchise quarterback. The Colts bring in Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones wins the quarterback battle and then has a tremendous season. Do you think there's any chance that can happen in Atlanta where Penix, I don't think he's not going to lose the quarterback battle unless he's not healthy. But like you said, if he starts the year and he lands on the PUP list because he's not recovered from his torn ACL, and Tua's week 1 starter in Atlanta, imagine if we're deja vu. You know, Tua Tagovailoa having a Daniel Jones-esque season from last year. The Falcons are like freaking 7-2, and Tua's having the best season since 2023. Do you think there's any chance that that's possible at all? Because I don't. I've given up on Tua. But we talked about it. He's in an offense that has a lot of weapons and a new head coach in Stefanski who's proven he can get the most out of lesser quarterbacks than Tua. You know, when Joe Flacco came off the couch, not that Joe Flacco's a lesser quarterback than Tua, but at the time, you know, we didn't give them much of a chance. Any chance that could happen this year?
I think that's a fair comp, man. I like that. You pulled that out of your hat. Yeah, look, we were all writing off Daniel Jones, right? When he went to Indianapolis. There's no way he is going to be the starter of the entire season. There were still a lot of people, especially in the fantasy football circles, that were all in on Anthony Richardson again, despite the horrific inaccuracies that he had, because they were all seduced by the juice that he brings on the ground with those legs. It's a different scenario with a different player types in Atlanta. But let's say hypothetically, Tua goes out there, gets a start in week 1, tears it up. Maybe gets another start, maybe another start after that as they bring Penix back rather slowly. let's say Atlanta, first 3 weeks of the season, they're 3-0. Are they going to pull the plug on Tua Tagovailoa, knowing how hot they are out of the gate and put Penix right back in? No, I don't think they will. I think they're going to try to find the appropriate time in that scenario than to put Penix into the starting lineup. So, yeah, man, I think it's going to be highly competitive. I think it is far from a guarantee that Penix is going to have his job over the entire season. If he does come back in week 1, or if he comes back in week 3 or week 5 or week whatever, I think this is going to be, not a contentious situation at all, but it's going to be highly competitive because honestly, I think these guys are overall of a similar ilk. So I'm kind of buying what you're selling there, which means I'm probably going to go the extra dollar in my fantasy auction draft for Tua, because I play in super flex leagues. It's 2 quarterbacks, folks. I'm a sicko.
Yes, exactly. It's like, what do you have to lose here? Again, that is considering if Michael Penix does not start the year healthy as a quarterback, as the quarterback of the Falcons. Because if he does, then you might be waiting a while for Tua to get on the field.